Good day and welcome to the channel. Today we will be looking at the film Roadhouse. Roadhouse is a 1989 film that follows the bouncer James Dalton as he takes up a new position in a new club in another town in order to bring this club into a good position as it has fallen into disarray and decay over the years from various sleazy individuals. So the film before us is a fantastic film. Let us now consider a few aspects of this film that makes it such a good film, shall we? So the first thing that we need to consider is the casting possibilities and then the final casting in regards to l- how we see the film in the final product. So the casting possibilities were as follows. In the original casting, obviously Patrick Swayze was a final call for the role of James Dalton, affectionately called Dalton. But as a casting began, we have Annette Bening, who was originally going to play Elizabeth Clay, the love interest to Patrick Swayze's James Dalton. Jimmy Reno was offered to Scott Glenn, but was turned down by this guy. And Joel Silver cast Sam Elliott as Garrett due to his baggage. Obviously, this implies that this character of Garrett had always been in mind for Sam Elliott, but now we need to consider those who were in the final casting call for the actual film. So, obviously, we've already noted Patrick Swayze as James Dalton. Kelly Lynch would have finally play Elizabeth Clay, the doctor and love interest to James Dalton. Sam Elliott we've already discussed as Wade Garrett. There are a few other people here that aren't so important, like in terms of mentioning their role, such as Ben Gazzara, Kevin Fye, I think his surname is, Red West. Another person that is important, which we will pick up on soon, is Jeff Healey. There's Sunshine Parker, John Paul Jones. Another person that is important to mention is Marshall Teague, who has had an illustrious acting career spanning 40, 50 years by now. He was also in a number of episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger alongside Chuck Norris in the early 90s, as well as a few of his films. And a good film that came along after that was Special Forces, also starring Scott Atkins. And then there are a number of other people, including Keith David. So we have these five people that are important to the role: Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott, uh, Jeff Healey, Marshall Teague, and Keith David, who also went on to star in Mark for Death with Steven Seagal. So there's the first aspect, the casting possibilities and the final casting call. So the next thing that we should note here is the filming. The film itself took place in April 1988, and its location was throughout California, primarily in Newhall, uh, Valencia, and Cannon Country. Sorry. The filming of much of the new Double Deuce was set in Anaheim's Cowboy Boogie, also later called the Bandstand, among other names until it closed. The opening and monster truck scenes were filmed in Redley, California. The Kings River runs between the two residents. The monster truck used was Bigfoot number 7, which was originally built for the film. The scene cost 500,000 to film. While filming the famous fistfight scene, Marshall Teague broke Patrick Swayze's rib. So this just gives a brief summary of what took place in the filming. And obviously you can watch the film just to see how the filming ran for this film. So the next thing that we need to consider is the fact that this film has a great musical lineage, shall we say, as well. The soundtrack to Roadhouse was all done by guitarist Jeff Healey, whose band is actually featured in much of the film. In the sort of opening scene of the film, to which we saw earlier on in the preview, we saw a man with blonde hair named Dalton as the person who s- took apart the fight. This is Jeff Healey. There seems to be in the background in the film a previously established relationship between these two characters. What that is exactly, we're not told, but we're to assume that they'd been friends for a long time. The film's score was composed by Michael Kamen, and there was an expanded 31 track score to mark the 30th anniversary of the film as well. But the main point here is that Jeff Healey was both involved in the soundtrack external to the film, as well as portraying an actor within portraying a character within the film as well. Now, another thing about this film, if you've actually watched it, even just once, you can tell in almost every aspect of the film there is a particular thing that is on display in either demonstration or in actual combat scenes, and that is the fact that there is a martial arts being seen throughout. In the background to this film, we see that everything with regards to the martial arts side, particularly with Patrick Swayze and possibly Marshall Teague as well, but obviously he had already had a quite a rich background in the martial art world as a kickboxer, but with Patrick Swayze, who had never actually studied any martial art to this point, as he is a classically trained dancer, he was instructed by one of the then world known kickboxers, Benny the Jet Urquidez. who had a small minor role in the film as well as a henchman of the mob syndicate, shall we say. But if you watch everything that um, Patrick Swayze does in terms of martial arts, you can see that it's Benny Urquidez's style being demonstrated and being put into combat situations in the film. Now, another thing that we should note is that upon release, this film garnered 61 million. 30 of that came in the United States and Canada, and 31 internationally. Just to give a little more background to this, between VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray and streaming service sales, Roadhouse has grossed 2.3 million, including its original box office of 61 million. So there's a kind of backdrop of how well it done. In 2006, there was a deluxe edition put out with two audio commentaries, including one with the director titled On the Roadhouse and What Would Dalton Do? And then in 2016, another two disc Blu-ray collector's edition was put out with 14 extra features with material ported over from the previous editions. And this included a panel discussion by many of the different actors involved: Kelly Lynch, John Doe, Kevin Tighe, Julie Michaels, and Red West. Then there was also a 4K Ultra High HD Blu-ray combo pack released in 2022. So these reviews are largely negative, I would say, with one hint of positivity in them. But here's my review of the film and why I think it is a good film. There is a plot running throughout that demonstrates several factors. A stoic individual takes on a job who also has been trained in martial arts and is a bouncer. There are good points and bad points in the film, but in speaking to the individual watcher, I would say that they need to really consider it for themselves. Thank you for listening to this review.